Hey there guys, welcome back, Ricky here. Alright, today we have a electric sharpener versus a whetstone comparison, and a lot of you guys have been asking me about whether or not you should buy an electric sharpener and if they're worth your money, or should I go and buy a set of whetstones. So on my right, I have the Wüsthof by Chef's Choice sharpener. This here is really rated probably the best sharpener on the market in terms of a home use or even semi-professional use. Now I did my best to look through the instructions manual and through the box, and I really couldn't find any sort of grit level for these three slots. So the whetstones I chose for this series is the Suehiro soaking whetstones, the CERAX lineup. We have the CERAX 320, we have the CERAX 1000, and the Rika 5000. But in terms of pricing, you're looking at these three stones, you're looking at about $150 investment for these three. You can find all these three stones between $50 and $55. You can certainly find them on eBay and on Amazon, which I will leave in the video description if you guys want to do some research on your own time. And the electric sharpener here is currently on sale at Cutlery & More's website for $149. And you can find them typically on retail pricing for about $189 or $179 to $189. So this methodology is not perfect and it's not complete, and let me explain. Well, mainly because this sharpener here was not necessarily designed for knives heat treated over a 62, and so I chose a 62 because these are the knives that I use the most in terms of Rockwell rating, and most of my subscribers are asking about this, this setup here, or using Japanese knives as well. They're asking if these electric sharpeners are worth it for Japanese knives. So I chose a 62 Rockwell set of knives. So again, this is only isolating one Rockwell rating at 62 to 63. I will do more tests with lower Rockwell ratings and higher Rockwell ratings to give you guys really a much better understanding of how versatile this sharpener may or may not be. But on the sharpener, I basically went through the instructions manual, did exactly what it said. On stage 1, I did 20 pairs of pulls on each side, alternating between one and the other. And then I went through stage 2. Now the manual suggested that I went through 2 pulls or 2 pairs, between 1 and 2 pairs of pulls for the middle stage 2 section. And on stage 3, they suggested that I go 3 pairs of pulls and about 3 to 5 seconds per every 5 inches. Now the very last step, which actually involved stage 3 again, is actually the stropping phase. And they suggested that you do 1 second pull for every 5 inches of blade. So on the 8-inch blade, it took about 1.5 seconds to maybe 2 seconds for the 8-inch blade to fully come through. And the total time it took was a little bit over 5 minutes, which is not too bad. I thought it actually would take a little bit less time, but because they actually have all these steps and the actual pulling has to be timed properly, it actually took longer than I expected, which is fine. I mean, a little bit over 5 minutes to get a knife sharp is not a big deal. In terms of overall noise, it was fairly quiet. I didn't find it to be very loud. Definitely, if someone's in the house, you will hear it go off, but it's not overly loud, even being right up front to it. Not a big deal at all. It's very planted and stable. It's got 4 very large rubber legs, which keep it nice and planted. On this smooth stainless steel table, it wasn't sliding around at all. In terms of actual usage, there were a couple of things I really didn't love about it. The first thing is the guides, the fairings, are actually they hide the blades, so you actually don't know where the blades are. For the first few pulls, you actually have to guess as to where the blades actually are. And even after a few pulls, even when I was on stage 3, I really wasn't comfortable using this, because there were times when I try to get the blades planted and actually situated in the slot really nice and securely before I pulled, and I actually would pull the knife too far down. At the bottom of the guides, there are actually these plastic pieces here, and your knife actually will cut into them no matter what I did. So I really couldn't get the knife not cutting into the plastic after it would leave the cutting blade. If you actually have the blade too high, then you actually miss the cutting blade altogether, or you hit certain spots of your cutting blade. So from a visual standpoint, it was actually kind of frustrating for me to use. I understand that these guards, these fairings are actually made to actually protect your blade and to kind of guide the blade, and also maybe to even protect your fingers or children who actually accidentally may turn this unit on. It's just a little bit frustrating to use as a person who actually really wants to be more precise and to be a little bit more sure of where the blade and the cutting blade is. It's just kind of frustrating to use sometimes. Now for me, this next issue is probably the deal breaker, and it's this. There are hairline scratches at least a ½ inch above the cutting edge, all the way through the entire length of the blade from being used on this sharpener. You don't want to have scratches on the sides of your knife. Now, having scratches from daily use, that's one thing when the scratches are more organic looking and they just kind of happen over time. And that's going to happen with all knives anyway. But when you have hairline scratches that are a ½ inch thick that run from the heel of the knife all the way through the tip, it just looks very unnatural and unprofessional. and very unseeming in my personal opinion. And then the other thing is, if you had a chip in your knife, this sort of a sharpener I don't think would actually handle a chip at all. Minor chips and pitting will probably not be an issue, but if you were to cut into a bone by accident on a knife, and you have a chip that's a millimeter deep, this sharpener will be useless in that case. Then I went over to my whetstones. So in terms of overall sharpening time, I'm not counting the soaking time, so just keep that in mind. The CERAX 320 is a really great core stone. It could be used as a fixer stone or as a bringing a knife back to edge stone. The CERAX 1000 is a stone that I can recommend for anybody who just wants to have one stone that can really much do it all. It can fix minor chips. It can also bring a knife back to razor sharpness if you just took your time to sharpen on it and maybe stropped in some newspaper afterwards. The Rika 5000 to me is one of my favorite 5000 polishing stones. It leaves a kasumi finish stone, which is a non-mirror polished stone. It's a very hazy, very misty looking sort of a finish, and to me very mysterious and just very sexy. The kasumi finish is my personal preference. I just think that they look better, they look more professional, and to me I think they actually look sharper. So overall, my entire sharpening time, without me trying to rush at anything at all and really just enjoying my time, really, it took a little bit over 7 minutes, which really wasn't too bad. In terms of a soaking whetstone, I don't think there are any other stones that actually are better than these stones here for your money. Even up to $100 per stone, I still think that these 3 stones here will hold their own against any whetstones. So now we're going to do a really quick cut test, and again, this is just off the machines, no stropping involved, basically off the whetstones and off the machine. You guys can hear for yourselves how clean the edges are, and I don't have a microscope here, so I can't show you guys exactly how the edges look. Judging from my eyes, the final stage on this machine here, I don't think is any finer than 1500 grit. Now my best guess is that the chef's choice makers actually know that people who use high-end Japanese knives or knives that are heat treated from a 62 and above are probably not going to be using their knives on this sharpener, so they probably formulate these sharpeners to top out at 1000, 1500 grit so that knives at the 55 to 58 Rockwell can be easily sharpened and honed on them. That is just my guess, okay? So I have no conclusive evidence that that's the case, but that's just my guess. All right, so we're gonna go with the E-sharpener first. This is the Dowel Strong Sharpen with the E-sharpener, and we'll first go with the grain of the paper. Okay. So the edge is actually decent. It's not bad. It's what I would expect on a 1000 grit CERAX, to be honest. Okay, so we're gonna go horizontal to the paper. Okay. This is the Rika finish right here. Okay, so let's go horizontal. Okay, so here is my final conclusion, and take everything with a grain of salt. I will say that for the everyday person who is just getting into knives and just want a sharp knife to use, the E-sharpener is going to give you a better consistent result at a much faster time. So when you buy this out of the box, that's the edge that you can expect. You might have to try a few times to kind of learn where the edge is and where the grinding edge is on this sharpener, but for the most part, within 10 to 15 minutes, you will get a knife that is comparably as sharp as what I just showed you here. On whetstones, that learning curve is going to be much higher. It might take you weeks, it might take you months to produce that same cutting edge that I've just showed you there, but there is going to be a learning curve, and you really cannot deny that. So overall, I think it's a fine sharpener. It will give you decent results. It's just not going to give you the results of what you would find on a whetstone. And the pros of whetstones, they are more portable. You can use them pretty much anywhere. You don't need a power source, which is great. You just need a bucket of water and a knife and a platform to put them on. In terms of correcting your knives, I find that whetstones are going to be much more versatile. You can fix chips, you can fix gouges, you can reprofile your knife, which none of them can be done on this sort of machine here. This machine is really just for sharpening and bringing a dull knife back to life. Any gouges on your cutting edge, on your belly, you're not going to put it on this sort of machine. So even though I will say that the edge produced on the whetstone is far superior, I would say as much as 2 or 3 times better than the edge you can get on this machine here, it will take you a longer time to actually get there if you are new to sharpening. So keep that in mind. Don't take my results as the end-all be-all to everything. I want to hear from you. Am I being completely biased for whetstones? Am I not giving the e-sharpeners a chance? Did what I say actually make sense? Do scratches bug you? Yes or no? I want to hear your thoughts. Thank you for watching. Please consider subscribing if you enjoy my content. And for those who want to be updated on all the new videos, please enable notifications. I have new videos coming out every single week. And for those who are curious what my latest recommendations for knives, whetstones, and sharpening accessories are, I will leave a link in the video description to my kit list. And in that kit list, you will see all of the knives that I use, recommend, and everything that I use here in my studio. You will also see a link to my e-store where you can pick up handmade straps that are made by yours truly. Alright, well thank you so much for being here. I'll catch you in the next video.